Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Mike Wolfe reveals his relationship with Frank Fritz before death. American Pickers star Mike Wolfe let fans know that Frank Fritz died on September 30. Frank suffered a stroke in 2022 and has been receiving long-term medical care since that time. While Mike and Frank had a falling out before the stroke, the two had mended fences somewhat since then. Here is a look at Mike and Franka and their complicated relationship. Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz fell out thanks to American Pickers. Since the show started, Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz starred together on American Pickers. The childhood friends helped build the show into a ratings juggernaut as they traveled the country looking for antiques and taking the world into small-town Americana. However, their relationship ended when Frank began to deal with addiction issues. Frank ended up checking himself into rehab. When he was released, Frank had back surgery, which left him with almost 200 stitches and 2 rods in his back. At this point, Mike had him fired from American Pickers. Mike replaced Frank with Robbie Wolfe, and it seemed their relationship had been destroyed. "It's up to the network whether I come back on the show," Frank Fritz explained in 2021 via USA Today. "It ain't gonna affect me one bit. I didn't leave the show. I finished shooting." Mike tried to write it off by saying that Frank was like a brother to him, but it was time to move on with the show without him. This angered many fans. American Pickers had one of its lowest-rated seasons in history after that. Things got worse when Frank had his stroke. Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz made up after stroke. No one heard anything publicly from Frank Fritz after his massive stroke. However, Mike was there to offer his support and well wishes, and he said that the two of them spent time together after the stroke, mending their relationship. This was good news since Frank had said he hadn't spoken to Mike in 2 years during an interview in 2021 via the US Sun. It seems like the stroke finally made Mike reconsider severing a lifelong friendship. Mike claimed it was Frank's addiction issues that kept him from reaching out to his old friend. "I would love to talk with him again, we would absolutely love to, but he just can't get it right," Mike said. Frank is just going through a lot personally with his addictions. For his part, Frank said he had been sober for 11 months after going to rehab. In May 2023, Mike and Frank reunited over Memorial Day weekend and started to patch things up after their falling out. It has since been reported that they were still on good terms, and Mike was trying to make up for Frank's exit from the show. Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz were more than just co-stars on American Pickers. They were partners who scoured America's back roads, attics, and barns, uncovering lost treasures and sharing their mutual passion for history and storytelling. But beneath the surface of their on-screen dynamic was a complex relationship filled with ups and downs, laughter and arguments, distance and reconnecting, a relationship that has only now been fully revealed as Wolfe reflects on the years they spent together in the wake of Frank's passing. In a heartfelt reflection, Wolfe didn't shy away from acknowledging the challenges that had come to define their friendship. "Frank and I were like brothers," he began, "and, like brothers, we didn't always see eye to eye." He paused, as if letting the weight of his words settle, remembering all the times their different personalities clashed. Frank was often seen as the more reserved, slightly guarded picker, while Mike was the front-facing, gregarious one, always ready to dive into a conversation with a seller or spin a story about an artifact's potential historical impact. There had always been rumors about why Frank eventually left the show, with fans speculating on everything from personality conflicts to health issues and even deeper, unresolved grievances. But Mike shed light on the core of their friction, explaining how the show's immense success pulled them in different directions. "We were both just 2 regular guys from the Midwest, and suddenly American Pickers became this big thing. It changed our lives, and it changed how we related to each other," Mike confessed. Wolfe talked about how fame altered the lens through which they both viewed their roles on the show. "We both loved picking," he said with a sad smile. "That's what brought us together in the first place. But as time went on, the business side of things started weighing on us. The show wasn't just us driving around in a van anymore. We had contracts, meetings, people telling us what we should and shouldn't do." Mike admitted that he, being more business-oriented, embraced these changes while Frank found it harder to adjust, preferring the grassroots, get your hands dirty part of picking. Their divergent paths became even more apparent after Frank's health issues came to light. For years, Frank had struggled with alcoholism, a battle that took a toll on both his physical health and mental well-being. It was something Wolfe knew about and supported him through, but he said, "There's only so much you can do for someone who doesn't want help." He added, his voice thick with emotion, "I watched him go through so much. I wanted to be there for him, but sometimes he didn't want me to be. That was hard, real hard." Wolfe admitted that one of his biggest regrets was not reaching out to Frank sooner during their estrangement. "We had periods where we didn't talk," he revealed, looking down at his hands. "I think we both just assumed we had all the time in the world to make things right." Wolfe shared that he had been reaching out to Fritz before his passing, trying to find a way to rebuild their friendship. "There was so much I wanted to say to him, so many memories we hadn't talked about in years," he whispered. "It's tough knowing I won't get that chance now." He reminisced about some of the show's best moments, where he and Frank were just two guys on the road, goofing off and laughing at the ridiculous things we'd find. Wolfe talked about the infamous scene where Frank jokingly donned an oversized cowboy hat they had found in a barn, striking poses as Wolfe laughed hysterically in the background. "That's the Frank I want people to remember. Not the struggles, not the distance we had, but the friend who could make you laugh no matter what was going on around you." In his final days, Frank was still a picker at heart, Wolfe shared. Even after he left the show, he never stopped searching. Picking wasn't just something he did, it was who he was. "He found beauty in things most people would ignore, and he taught me how to do the same." Wolfe noted that they both had an uncanny knack for seeing the potential in objects others had discarded, which became both a bonding point and a metaphor for how they saw each other. "Sometimes you look at an old, rusted item and think, this thing is beyond repair. But then you take a closer look and you see all it needs is a little TLC." Wolfe also acknowledged the fans who were invested in their friendship, who saw them not just as TV hosts, but as friends with a unique and lasting bond. "Frank would love that people cared so much about us," Wolfe said with a slight chuckle. "He'd play it off, pretend he didn't notice, but he did. And I think he'd be happy knowing that people saw the good in us, even during the rough patches." The memories came flooding back as Wolfe recounted the long hours on the road together, the odd items they had to squeeze into the van, and the shared silence they fell into after a particularly good find. "We didn't always need words to connect. Sometimes just a look or a nod was enough. That was Frank," Wolfe reflected. "He was a man of few words, but his silence said more than most people's conversations." Reflecting on Frank's legacy, Wolfe wanted fans to remember Frank as more than just his TV persona. "Frank had a big heart. He'd give you the shirt off his back if you needed it, even if he'd complain about it the whole time. That was just his way," Wolfe laughed. He took a deep breath before adding, "I'll carry that part of him with me forever." In the end, Wolfe's words painted a picture of a friendship that was real, raw, and imperfect. They weren't just TV buddies or business partners. They were two men who shared years of adventures and arguments, laughter and silence, and an unbreakable bond that even time and distance couldn't sever. Wolfe summed up his tribute to Frank with a simple, heartfelt sentiment: "I loved him like a brother, and I'll miss him every day." As fans remember the banter, the laughs, and the irreplaceable moments shared between Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz, Wolfe hopes they'll see the bigger picture. "What Frank and I had, it wasn't perfect, but it was real, and I wouldn't trade it for anything."